Yujiro. He was defeated Bucky at the early parts of the story, and then their final fight was cut short with no concluded winner, but I would assume Bucky may have been able to take the dub. He's also able to defeat Hanayama as well throughout the story, and there's tons of other people. A lot of dubs Miyamoto gained throughout his arc, being the best swordsman, but even without his swords, as I mentioned, not with the use of weapons, he's an absolute threat, and he can just use his hands as swords, and in some cases stronger than the actual sword, which is just insane to think about. In number 2, I decided to go for Bucky Hanma, our protagonist. So he had his fight against Yujiro Hanma, or his second fight, or third fight, whatever you want to call it, against Yujiro Hanma, where he was able to gain the respect of Yujiro Hanma. And as we know, Yujiro doesn't give anyone respect. He's actually able to get respect, even though Yujiro kind of says Bucky wins. He didn't really win, and pretty much Yujiro won that fight, so he's not stronger than Yujiro at this point. He was able to defeat the likes of, I would say, Pickle, but he could argue it was a draw. He didn't really defeat Miyamoto in 100% versus 100% fight. He was able to defeat Sukune and various other fighters throughout the story. He respected his different protagonist. He's able to unleash the demon back sometime throughout the story, as shown when he faced against Jack and when he faced against Yujiro as well. Thing we know about Bucky's second spot currently, and then of course number 1, who else would it be but the simp Ali Jr. And yep, that's the top 10 list. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe. And I'm just joking. Number 1, of course, is absolute monster, the ogre, Yujiro Hanma. You know, he just takes all the dubs. He's undefeated so far in the series. The only character we could argue that has defeated him is Bucky, and possibly his dad Yujiro. That's why I didn't really want to include him on this list, because we haven't seen him defeat Yujiro. But Yujiro is definitely a monster. Everyone in this list is pretty much defeated. He hasn't met Sukune, but he's already defeated him. He hasn't defeated Miyamoto, but if the fight concluded, or continued, he would have defeated Yujiro. He's defeated Hanayama multiple times, he destroyed Todoroki. You know, Todoroki is missing guys, that's because of Yujiro. Yujiro is the monster of Bucky, the strongest character, and that's my top 10 list. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know maybe I should include. Do agree if my list is great. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, and that's it guys. Peace.
Yeah, subscribe to that.
Some of the top-rated songs are on sale now. Click the link to shop and save today, and see why we're America's #1 furniture and mattress store. Ashley Home Store. This is home.
Bitcoin, the best money you've ever had. With a different kind of money comes a different kind of card. Crypto.com Visa card, powered by crypto. Reserve yours now.
Yujiro Hanma, the father of the ogre Yujiro and grandfather of Jack and Bucky Hanma, an absolute legend of the Buckyverse, but also a character with a lot of misconceptions and fake information spread throughout the fandom. Today I'll be going over how strong this beast truly is, while clearing up all the wrong information out there. But first, make sure to leave a like on the video, 2,000 likes and I'll release the next video in the series. Subscribe for more, hit the bell, now let's begin. Yujiro has only appeared 3 times throughout the Bucky franchise. His first showing is Bucky vs. Yujiro Fight Arc. This is at the end of the 3rd manga series titled Bucky Son of Ogre, chapter 285 for reference. In this same arc we get his flashback, and the other time we see him is in a Bucky spin-off manga titled Bucky Gaiden Kenjin, which is featuring the events of young Todoroki, and we see Yujiro in chapter 1. Let's discuss his first appearance in the main series. Bucky is almost knocked out on the floor, but we see that his demon back has finally came out, with Yujiro's demon back being out as well. We see Bucky, who is in fact questioning whether or not he should give up. Then out of nowhere, Yujiro became stunned, and this is of course his father appearing in front of him. People somehow come to the conclusion that Yujiro was scared in this scene, but if you look at the panels and what's being said, it's very clearly his absolute shock, as anyone would be seeing the ghost of your father. However, this shock quickly turns into rage. Yujiro screaming, "What the hell are off saying you haven't changed a bit, then does some shit talking, which was great to see to be honest, saying fighting against a child, yet you still have so much trouble. Prove the fact that Yujiro wasn't scared even more. After we get Yujiro's flashback, which I'll talk about soon, we have Yujiro in the present statement. That was real nostalgia. I had almost forgotten his face, and his favourite technique was really strong. With Yujiro even looking happy in this panel here, which is quite strange. Regardless, before we cut into Yujiro's flashback, he tells Bucky the following: make sure you win, which gives Bucky the drive to continue fighting and not give up like he was questioning to before. We don't know the specifics of the relationship between Yujiro and his father, but we do get a few statements from Yujiro that does clarify a few things. He talks about Yujiro and himself being completely different people, also extreme opposites of each other. So I think it's pretty safe to say they weren't close whatsoever. But the question is, how strong does this short scene imply Yujiro is? One thing to mention is Pickle's reaction to the situation. This is very clearly a sign of fear, not whatever Yujiro's facial expressions were. We can gather a few explanations for this. Pickle seeing Ghost was most likely mind breaking more than any others, considering who Pickle is. But also remember, Pickle is someone who views various spiders of the current age in reference to dinosaurs as a way to compare them and engage them. Being scared of only a wasp, which he sees from Jack when he had the setup to kill Pickle. But even in that scene there, Pickle was kind of the straight-faced gang, and he kind of saw this wasp bug-like creature when fighting Musashi. But this reaction here is much different to all others we've seen from Pickle throughout the series. Whatever Pickle sees from Yujiro could very well be scarier and more powerful than anything he's ever experienced before. But do take note, we don't really know anything about this. We didn't get Pickle's perspective in this scene. But yeah, something I noticed and wanted to talk about. Bucky comments on his wide shoulders and is very clearly shaking from Yujiro's blow. Yujiro as well, even though he's angry for a short portion of this, allows Yujiro to say whatever he wants. Something quite out of character for someone like Yujiro. So this scene alone does imply that of course Yujiro is very powerful. Now let's get into this flashback. Yujiro defeating the USA. On one small island, the USA used 1,000 tons of ammunition, sending bombs to the sea and sky at this one island alone, where we saw one man. Yujiro, who uses soldiers as boards, showing his insane throwing strength and ability, taking down a small army and surviving even more bombings after the initial 1,000 tons. The USA were questioning whether or not to use a nuke on Yujiro. However, the war ended before the decision was made, so they in fact didn't use a nuke on Yujiro. Yujiro didn't survive a nuke, people, one of the main misconceptions throughout the fandom. And I also bet some people have already commented down below as soon as clicking on the video about Yujiro surviving a nuke or something crazy like that. The nuke was never used. Simple. However, Yujiro did not stop. He attacked people on the ship, showing his demon back in the process. We learned that the ship he attacked had 2,000 soldiers on board and was one of the most powerful or single most powerful ships that was classified. Yujiro with one technique took out many of these soldiers, and out of fear the remaining soldiers jumped off the ship. Yujiro defeated them in a few minutes, in turn becoming the demon who defeated the United States of America with the technique known as Dress. At least in the translation I'm reading, there's a few translation issues throughout all Bucky. This may be one of them. Hopefully we get this clarified when the anime comes out, but I'll be calling it Dress. So regarding Yujiro's overall strength and ability, the most impressive aspect shown in his backstory is of course sending people flying through like the wood of the ship with a single attack, him not showing any physical damage after surviving all the bombings and over 1,000 tons of ammunition sent at him, which is, you know, very insane. And the fact that the surviving soldiers pretty much saw any like boxing or martial art fight in their life as absolute trash compared to what Yujiro was doing during the war with one technique. Now let's talk about the Bucky Gaiden spin-off chapter. It begins by describing the fight of the century, the pro wrestling king who achieved the third highest rank in Super Momo versus our boy Yutro, who's described as a judo master, so adding more to his overall ability. However, this fight didn't go as everyone expected. Yutro pretty much through the fight didn't attack or do anything back, just allowed the pro wrestler to land all his blows until Yutro was initially defeated. After that, we see a somewhat injured Yutro, but people are shocked that he's still walking after the meeting. So even though he has visible injuries, he is barely, fine. But then this is where we see a young Dopper Orochi, which of course leads to the second major misconception to cover in today's video. We have no indication that this is Prime Dopper Orochi. And in fact, based on main series information, we can say that this isn't in fact Prime Dopper Orochi. We have various statements or showings of Dopper actually training and saying he's gotten stronger, meaning the current Dopper could be the strongest, but my personal view on this is the Dopper Orochi who faced Yujiro when he had two eyes and that cross-eyed, defense crazy technique, is the prime of Dopper Orochi, not this version as, it's kind of baseless, and I won't say it's thanks to this YouTube video, but I'm guessing it did play quite a big role in people saying this is prime Dopper Orochi. But regarding the scene itself between both of them,
Gabby, how does that make you feel?
Oh, I feel moisturized.
That's really good.
we have Dopper Orochi who realizes what Yutro did in that fight. We learned that Yutro was given money to pretty much throw the fight, doesn't really care, and again, complete opposite to the likes of Yutro. We have him dislike implication